I'm gonna tell you they roll. Follow the motherfucking platform. Do the goddamn work. That's their role. Do the work.
Is that the same answer for those who follow the Black Panther legacy now?
Hey, do the motherfucking work. Listen, man. We done a lot of tongue wrestling. Right? Like Warden them say, Brother E say showmanship. We done did a lot of showmanship. This show now. You deal what I'm saying? Fuck the words, fuck the good speeches. Let's show. We know better. Do the work. You deal what I'm talking about? Or move the
We grew up in the hood like most black folks. Little did they know it comes gorillas from the South Coast. Breaking the boots out, living and working in many places. Black brain for not five, squashing posse, going to century. This revolution every tactic. Them flips up out of my mind. I practice pro-blackness. Now to say I'm prejudice, what's your intelligence? No, I'm not suicidal, but I'm dying for my people. No, I'm not doctor. I distinguish good from evil. I use the world on pencil line. My mind too perfect. I cut away my I got strong, something with this mentality. And I'm weak, I'm not no gangster. It won't be televised. I mean, in time, my posse on the trigger. Lord, oh Lord, am I the devil? Or am I killing the sun? After the throne, son, the true image of you. A portrait that I could not never see. Dumb as I may be, I never go. I come with positive genocide.
Peace and power. Once again, this is Panther 48. And we're coming at you with a very special guest today. We're keeping with the trajectory of what we've been doing lately. We've been interviewing grassroots revolutionaries, community organizers, and activists. And today we have a very special brother calling out of Dallas, Texas, who goes by the name of DarkCide. This brother was an instrumental member in the foundations of the Dallas chapter of the new Black Panther Party under Aaron Michaels. Brother DarkCide, introduce yourself.
All right, I didn't take my phone off you. How y'all doing, man?
All right, we got Brother Robert Ward Williams calling out of California.
All power to the people, folks.
And we got Brother E, who's probably somewhere getting some lettuce or some carrots or something, calling out of Florida.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, today the spotlight is on you, Brother DarkCide. So we're gonna kind of get on into it. Starting out, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience. Tell the people who DarkCide is and what DarkCide comes from. Who is DarkCide?
Man, DarkCide is the average black male that was born in America. I'm no different than nobody else. My story ain't no different than nobody else's story. You know, we all go through trouble, turmoil, and strife in the community. So my story is not unique. If I tell it, you can hear it 1,000 times. So I'm the average black male out the ghetto. I'm out of Oak Cliff, Texas, born and raised. Just been fighting poverty my whole life. It started, I guess, I became the bully buster in school. I used to get a lot of fights in school because I used to hate watching people jump on other folks. So I just jump in the fight if they outnumbered. I started getting suspended a lot. My mama figured I was starting fights, but I was really helping folks. I did entertain the streets for a bunch of years. A lot of y'all that know me know that. You know what I mean? I've been to the military. After the military, I joined the new Black Panther Party because of Brother War. Me and him was having conversations while we was both in the military. He was in reserves, I was active duty. And we was both having conversations about America in general. And with me being in the military at the time, I was seeing a lot of what was going on. Me being a foot soldier to hold this supremacy around the world, because see, a lot of people don't realize, right? The military is the police around the world. And then we come home, we have to deal with our police. You know what I mean? So I was under the same pressures as I was putting someone else up around the world in my same skin and my same color. Once I joined the new Black Panther Party, I came under the tutelage of Aaron Michaels. Brother DK was one of my chairmen, and Brother War was one of my chairmen. I also fell under Dr. Khalid Muhammad too for a while. And then I left the party, you know what I mean? And we'll get into that here in just a minute on the reasons why, but that's a quick brush up of who I am.
All right, that's good. That's good. Now tell me this. You said, now you used the term, you said that you entertained the streets for a little while without going too deep or getting yourself indicted. You know, you know, I don't want you to self-indict yourself, but I get yourself indicted. What would that mean to a certain degree?
All right, well, it started when I was 12. I caught my first case, auto theft. I caught my first 2 dope cases at 15 and 16. Once I did that, I went to the military. I came back. Yeah, I joined the party, but at the same time, I was still in the streets. You know what I mean? So when I say entertain the streets,
yeah,
I did what streets do. You know what I'm saying? I was a damn fool just like everybody else. You did what I mean? You're
the true embodiment of the term revolutionary but gangster.
Man, so I'm talking about true embodiment. You know what I'm talking about? And as a matter of fact, that term within itself caused clashes within the party. Yeah. You know what I mean? But we won't talk about that, and it causes clashes in the movement, period. Because at the end of the day, ain't nobody really ready for war. They sit out there, they talk about it, but they ain't really about it. You deal what I'm saying? The moment somebody come getting their ear that's about it, they gonna shun them down. They gonna shut them out. They gonna start pushing them to the rear. They really ain't about that. They gonna start giving them phrases such as, man, that ain't the time. We need to prepare. Nigga, I'm getting beat the fuck up. When is the time to swing back? I don't know, but like I say, man, I'm both.
Sure, indeed. Now I got a few questions I'm gonna ask you. What do you identify as some of the main conditions that bring about self-destructive behavior?
Man, it comes in many folds. You know what I mean? I mean, we can say the obvious of the self-program, the programming that they give us on TV, the programming that they give us in music. You know what I'm saying? The repetitive images that they show of us. You did what I'm talking about. They control our industry, so they put the clothes in the clothing store in order for us to say that we picked those to buy. Now they phased the other ones out and phased us into these. You did what I'm saying? So there's many factors, but the one thing I can say about Blacks is we don't want accountability. You know what I mean? That's one of the things I can say that hinders us the most. We don't want accountability. We only accept the things that we want to accept, right? And I got something that I tell my kids all the time. Hoe ass shit is hoe ass shit. I don't care who doing it, whether it's me, you, or somebody else. I'm just that nigga doing hoe ass shit right now. You deal what I'm saying? And we don't want to seem to take accountability for the things that we do and things that we go through at this point, because we don't have to. We can be somebody different. We just chose not to be. So accountability would be one of the big ones on top of the list.
All right. What for you? What was the moment, the hidden home moment, with your personal experiences that drove you to decide to better yourself?
It's kind of twofold, because I switched over and then I failed and I switched again, right? The first one was my right hand man, my cousin, killed himself, right? But I talked to him that morning, and that morning I was on some of that dumb ass gangster shit. You deal what I'm talking about? And the last words he told me was, "My nigga, how long you gonna be like this? If I can change, you can change. I'm worse than you." And he told me he was gonna pray for me and hung up the phone. The next time I heard from anybody about him, he was dead. You deal what I'm saying? At that time, I was fighting 3 felonies in the city of Dallas. You deal what I'm talking about? And after his funeral, I went and knocked on Lou Sterry Wonder, the sheriff department, and I turned myself in. I sat in there for almost a year and a half fighting these cases, right? I didn't take any visits. I didn't make any phone calls. I barely talked to the niggas in New Orleans because I was in New Orleans then. I barely talked to them cats, right? I laid on my bunk. I walked around that cage, and I thought about my life. I examined my whole life, entire life, the whole time I was in there. That's all I could do. You did what I'm saying? And I had told myself I was failing as a man. You know what I'm saying? I got to be tired of living as a hypocrite. You get what I mean? Because on one hand, I say I'm a revolutionary. Another hand, I'm out here wrecking the community, right? So that's got to give. And then here I am. I'm at 30. I think I was 31. Yeah, 31 years old, fighting 3 motherfucking felonies. Like I'm throwing my life away. You know what I mean? So when I came out, I realized that I couldn't do the same things the same way, nor do the same thing. So I moved away from the cliff, period, because I was weak behind my neighborhood. You did what I'm saying? Like, as in me out there looking for a job. I looked for a job for 10.5 months. Them pink people wouldn't hire me at first. You did what I'm saying? I had to down them beg. Well, there was no down. I begged them hard for 10 months to somebody please hire me, right? Okay, we'll get on that shit there in a minute. But once I moved out the hood, I moved with a female I didn't like because the hood, if I wouldn't have found no job, I'd have ended up back hustling. You did what I'm saying? Like a man got to have money to eat and live. I don't know no man that calls himself a man, you did what I'm saying, that can't provide for himself and his family. So I finally got everything right, and I went and got my CDLs, man, because me and my mama had a talk, and she told me I had to reposition myself. She said, Ray, you've been in the streets 15 some odd years. You've been doing this, you've been doing that. There's no job for that. You have no work experience, and if you want to be in a position, you have to reposition yourself. So I repositioned myself. I went and got my CDLs, and that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years.
True indeed. I kind of think you really just answered the next question in my viewpoint, because the next question was, it says, what do you relate to as makers that should cause Black people to change from a self-destructive perspective on life? And I didn't write that question. Brother War wrote that question, and you know, Brother War has a way of mixing words up in a certain type of way. But I'm gonna take it to mean that I'm gonna say he meant this. What things can inspire or make a person want to change from a self-destructive perspective? That's what I think Brother War meant. And one of the things you just said was, because you said you kept going back and forth, but then your mother told you that you had to reposition yourself. See, I think a lot of times people mess up and wait for somebody else to put them in position. And your mother told you that you had to reposition yourself. And I identify with that. It touched me because that's the same conversation I had to have with myself. I sat up and I told myself the things that I'm good at, there are no trades for these things. You know, they're not hiring anybody to do this. You know, these are not marketable skills. You know, so I have to reposition myself. I have to change how I'm moving and how I'm operating. But let me ask you the question anyway. Brother Wall wants to know, what do you believe that will inspire or make the Black community want to change from a negative to a more positive perspective on life?
I'm gonna tell you like this, really. We'll never be perfect.
True.
Right? We'll never be perfect. So I don't see the whole community ever getting perfect. The only thing I say is I build my own community. The same way as we do in street trials, when we don't like our family members, we go build our own family. You deal what I'm saying? So my thing is, I don't worry about the ones who don't want to change. You deal what I'm saying? I'm not going to waste my breath, time, or energy trying to convince them that their life could be better. You deal what I'm talking about? But what I will do is I will join forces with like minds that has the same motivation and desires that I have, and we can go ahead and build, because there is no one answer to our problems in the community. You know what I mean? So if you're a like mind, you're an asset, not a liability, because we don't do liabilities. We don't waste our time with them. We don't know how much time we got on this earth, so we're not going to play with you. But we will build with like minds. And that's where I'm at as far as getting the community together. I build my own community. You did what I mean? And it's some sort of, and let me say this. I'm not going to say that it can't happen because we done it in Sarah Garden. We done it in Robin Oaks. You did what I'm talking about? We got it to where we wasn't fighting each other over there so much, right? We damn sure wasn't killing each other no more. You know what I mean? We stopped the break-ins in the homes. We stopped the break-ins in the car. We took domestic violence down, at least out in the public. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You know what I mean? But there are ways, and true love, people understand true love. And that's one of the ways you can change the things around you. You know what I mean? Because once you start showing love, you know, our people are zombies. And there a lot of us are followers. So once one person starts showing love, another person see that that's able to happen. They start showing love. Next thing you know, we all got love for each other. And it's also a thing called sacrifice too, because sometimes you got to do things for others that it doesn't necessarily profit you or make you anything. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of factors to that, but I really don't think we're going to make the perfect community in the community that we have. I think we have to build us one.
I agree with you 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head with that, and I can't in no way go against that. I've got another question. What do you see as some of the differences between the Black Panther Party and how it operated in the 60s and 70s, and then when you got involved in the 90s through the 2000s and, you know, the later years?
All right. It was major differences. One was the programs, right? They had full-fledged running programs that was actually helping the community. Now, I'm not going to say we didn't do any good in the community, right? But I have, looking back, playing Monday morning quarterback, we made a lot of mistakes, and we missed a lot of chances, and there was a bunch of things that we didn't jump on that we should have. We didn't have anything dealing with economics, right? Nothing at all. We didn't have anything that watch this. We didn't have our own building. And when we did have our own building, the economics part ended up losing, right? So to me, the biggest difference is between the 60s and the new one was organization, right? And focus, and should I say mission oriented. You know what I mean?
Now, you touched on a point, and I want to build on it just a little bit. You said that one of the major things was economics. When you talked about doing the Monday morning quarterbacking and looking back on the things and opportunities we didn't take, and that's one of the things that I think is extremely important for organizations that claim that they want to make real positive, productive change in the neighborhood, but not seeing economics as an important part of that. Economics is extremely important, and building an economic platform to operate from is extremely important for any organization. I think now I truly believe that some of the major differences also, you know, in every era we're faced with different battles, so to speak. I think in the 60s it was easier, even though it hasn't changed much as far as Black people getting murdered in the street by the police and things of that nature. But I think it was easier to get the average Black person to understand that they was oppressed than it is now. Now that these Negroes can wear red bottoms and Louis Vuitton, they think they're not oppressed. And I think
right.
I think that's something that Hugh and Bobby them had that we didn't have. It was easy to show the community their poverty and the fact that they was oppressed. And everybody didn't agree with them. You know, everybody didn't agree with what they were trying to do. You know, you still had Negroes rebelling against that. Go ahead, brother. I see you ready to chime in.
Well, I was just going to add to it. The cats in the 60s also were spinning right off of Malcolm. They were alive when Malcolm was around, and Martin and all of that. So they were building on the momentum of something that was already there. By the time, between the time they quote unquote died off and died down. And the time we popped up in the late 80s, what, like 20 years or some shit. So we were effectively starting all over and didn't have any type of bridge to those that already did it. Whereas they grew up on the bridge. We could only see the bridge in hindsight. We could only read books about it, listen to speeches on tape. We didn't have anybody holding our hand. So we are out there figuring the shit out on the fly.
Yeah.
And then with technology, it's a lot of distractions going on nowadays. You know what I mean? A lot of things to keep you occupied, keep your mind occupied, other than seeing your true reality. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's a lot of things, but to me, don't none of it mean anything. You deal with what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, people are going to be who they are, right? There's people that will never change. There's people that won't change, but it'll never change. And there's people who desire to change and they'll do anything for it. That's just the makeup of man, right? And we find it easier for the ones who's ready to make a change and want to make a change, right? It's easier to talk to them about changing. You deal what I mean? And they fought the same battle back then because they had run and all that other stuff going on. You deal what I'm talking about? They had other distractions going on too. Now, they outworked us. I can't say that. You deal what I'm saying? They work in the community in the 60s was like, man, like they was on steroids compared to us. You deal what I'm saying? Yeah, we done some work, and then their work was continuous. And not only was it continuous, right? It grew. It didn't stay stagnant. It didn't fall off. You deal what I'm saying? They didn't start a program today. 3 months from now, it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? They found the way. That's another difference I can say about them. Regardless of what they was trying to do, they found the way. You know what I mean? Us, Negroes nowadays, it's like we satisfied with doing bad. We done been doing bad so long, like it's aight. You know what I mean? You got 5 grown men in the room, but you can't come up with $50. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
And don't nobody see a problem with it, right? But we'll call ourselves an organization. You deal what I mean? It's just, like I told you, it goes back to organizing and the overall big picture that they really seen the prize in the end. To me, I'm not going to say we was playing soldiers, but we were playing soldiers. You deal what I'm saying? We was playing revolutionary. You deal what I'm talking about? Yeah, we jump up with our guns, we run out there, we do our thing, we come back, we train a little bit, right? We talk about programs. Majority of them never get started. The ones that we do think we can start, we really didn't have the funds for. You deal what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know, bro. Like I told you, I'm kind of biased. I'm Monday morning. You know what I mean?
It's okay. I want to ask, and this ain't just to you, Dark. This is to everybody, because you just brought up something that, you know, that we debate about all the time. Okay. If we was dropping the ball in such a way, what made us even get in the uniform and get involved? What if we got in the uniform and got involved, it's because we believed in something. Right. But we were lacking something that helped us manifest that, turn that belief into reality. So what is it, Brother E, Brother War, Brother DarkCide? What is it that was lacking in those young, idealistic, revolutionary-minded youth that failed to allow us to manifest that belief that we had? We really believed we were doing something. I remember when I first met E and when I first met E and Isaiah, and they wanted to do the police patrols. And so we would all get in our black, and we would ride around, and we would police the police. We do that program, and we was doing it. You was all young, and we was all making moves based off what we understood to do. So I don't believe that any of us was just doing it just because, hey, there's nothing better I could be doing by Friday night. But it's something that we lacked that allowed us to manifest that into reality.
Me, I'm gonna say leadership. That's what I'm gonna say, right? Because at the end of the day, an organization is only as good as its leadership and its members, right? If the leadership if this is not a requirement, you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a requirement. It was edged in stone, but it wasn't edged in stone, right? None of us went out there saying, okay, we're just playing revolutionaries. Like I said, on Monday morning quarterbacking. You did what I'm talking about? Because when I look at it, I was a nigga in uniform. You did what I'm talking about? I'm just being honest with you. The same as when I went to the military, I was a gang member in uniform. You did what I'm talking about? When I came out that uniform, I throw my flag on, I go on and hit the town, ride with my partners. You did what I'm talking about? But yet and still, I'm running around doing soldier shit, right? I'm running around. I was a nigga in uniform because I never let go of my nigga ways. That's just me. You did what I'm talking about? I did some righteous things, but I also was still on the back end doing some fucked up shit to the community. You did what I'm talking about? Now, was I getting in trouble for the shit I was doing? No. You get where I'm coming from? I wasn't, right? I was allowed to do what I do and still be in a uniform. That's a no-go. You did what I'm talking about? I remember we had an argument one time in a meeting, and we was talking about folks being in uniform and being out of uniform, right? The things that you can do in uniform and the things that you can do out of uniform. Now that I'm Monday morning quarterback, I know the things that I do in uniform and the things that I can't do in uniform are the same things that I can and can't do out of uniform. You understand? Because I've come to learn that uniform, I had worn that uniform in I don't know how many years. And people still come to me and say, hey, DarkCide, man, yeah, that's that Panther. You get where I'm coming from? Yeah. So now that I'm Monday morning quarterback, I couldn't different. I had a problem coexisting the two lives. Now I know that them two lives can't exist. You have to choose one, right? I didn't educate myself to the point to where I knew about economics then, right? I read a lot of books about history, religion, us. Whoa. Didn't pick up not one book on economics. Not one. But I'm thinking that I'm gonna be able to run something and be something with this nigga economics education that I got. You did what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I'm thinking nigga economics. Now that I've learned something about economics, I know there's a bridge between the two. You did what I'm saying, to where they join each other, because the hustle is a hustle. You did what I'm saying? And economics is economics. It's just how you look at it. But at the time, I didn't have the education. So now I have the education. I can see the bridge. But at that time, like I say, on me, I was being a nigga in uniform, right? Which was a big ass hypocrite. You did what I'm saying? Thus, one of the reasons I left the party. You did what I'm saying, amongst the other ones that I have listed. But that was me on that end.
You know, you another thing you said, and it's something that I realized when I was in prison, because I tell the brothers all the time that my time in the party prepared me for the things that I would end up doing while I was in prison. And you said that one of the things that we was lacking, you said leadership, and that these things was all right, but they wasn't a requirement. And you're right about that. The requirement has to be there. There can't be no way you can show up if you want to, and you can participate if you want. It has to be a requirement. You have to run this boy like you got to run this boy like boot camp. It got to be soldiers.
That's right.
This is what you're gonna do, or you have to do. We don't need you. You can't serve. You can't put on this uniform. You can't serve from this position. You got to go. You know, when you deal with people like that, I noticed that when I was in prison, when I dealt with people like that, I got some good, solid soldiers out of that. I even got dudes that sometimes walked away, and then they would sit from the peripheral and watch us, and then they would come back later with their head down, apologizing, saying, "Man, can I have another shot?" You know, we would do a study group every Sunday. We called it Uhuru Shule Liberation School, and every Sunday morning, you had to be in the day room at 5 a.m. The class starts at 6, but you need to be in the day room at 5. You cannot come out of the cell at 6 with a toothbrush in your mouth at the table, brushing your teeth, trying to get in the study. You showed up with that toothbrush in your mouth. I tell you, try it again next week. You got to come to the table ready, prepared, ready to go. You come to that table, no toothbrush. I had a dude, okay, this time he show up, no toothbrush, shoes on. You show up without the shoes on, try it again next week. Because it's not being in the day room with no shoes on is a flawed behavior in prison. But you try to get, so I had a dude show, he finally showed up, no toothbrush, shoes on, he 100% ready. But he didn't have a pen and paper. I said, yeah, try it again next week. And when you put those standards down, and I think part of the problem is sometimes in these organizations, because it's not cool to try to bring some positive to the community. So you have very few workers. And sometimes I think we'd be afraid of losing the few workers that we have. But you got to put that standard down. You got to put your foot down and say, this is what it's going to be. And I think, and I know for a fact, ain't no thing to it. I know for a fact that when you do that, you get better workers and better soldiers out of your people. You might have few. I'm gonna say a Jay-Z verse. He say on the song Pound Cake he got with Drake. He say my little homie told us, "Hove, it ain't enough of us." I told him less is more, nigga, is plenty of them. And I think that's the mind state revolutionaries got to have. Less is more. It's plenty of them. There's a whole lot of them. But yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. What do you see as some of the causes of the disconnect we have between the elder generation and the youth?
It ain't no disrespect. It's just the elder generation now is just as retarded as the youth. They in there with them. They connected. I'm talking about shit. Ain't no gap. Shit, the motherfucker, oh nigga, they chilling and that nigga on the block with the money. Y'all motherfuckers. You know what I'm talking about? He dressed like them, talk like them, want to be like them. Them young motherfuckers, they chilling with that old nigga and that old bro. Ain't no, bro, everybody just retarded right now, right? Yeah. See, I use that word a lot, and I've been using that word a lot, retard. A lot of people miss the true definition of a retard, right? They only think of the mental slowness, okay? The other part of that definition says, lack of achievements, lack of accomplishments, slow to move, right? Just as you would have fire retardant resistant materials, right? It has nothing to do with the mind. All it does is slow a fire down. Yeah. So a lot of us are living retards, including the elders, because the ones that really had something in their head, they down, right? We stuck with the ones that's left, and the ones that's left tired. The elder, our grandmothers and stuff like that, they tired, bro. You did what I'm saying? And now we grandmama and granddaddy, right? And we chilling. You did what I'm saying? Yeah. We just like them. We listening to rap music, right? We watch the same movies. We pull up, got the bangle with us. You did what I'm saying? Granddaddy still got that on his lap. You know what I'm talking about? Man, bro, there's no gap. The only thing is everybody retarded now. The elders and the youth.
And how do you think we got there in that position?
Oh man, come on, you know the recipe just like I know it. It's been happening to us since we've been here. You know what I'm talking about? And mental illness is a real effect, right? We run around with mental illness, we run around with PTSD and a whole lot of other things that go on within us, man. And to be honest with you, a lot of us really just care not to really think about the pain and the stuff that we go through. You did what I'm talking about. A lot of us rather just say fuck it like Good Times say, you know what I'm saying? The songs say, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, a lot of people really, they done came to, in their mind, Stockholm syndrome. They done came, well, this is what it is. This is how it is, right? This is what it's going to be. Now, here's the promising thing. I do see a lot of people waking up now that it's a trend. You did what I'm saying? Yeah. It's a trend now. It's a fad now. You did what I'm saying? Just like dreadlocks and them old tight jeans and all that shit. It's a fad now. So with that being said, you got a lot of young people, like this younger generation that really is waking up. They're really reading. They walking around, they look at their computer other than just videos talking about their cell phone. They really do look up, try to find information and want to seem like they know something, right? Now, if we don't take advantage of it, and what I mean by we, I mean by all of us that's out here in the trenches, because we haven't been taking advantage of it. You deal what I mean? If I ask anybody that's out here been doing this work to show me they better, show me your better. You deal what I'm saying? We've been doing this 20 some years. Show me the better. Right? So I think we just got to take a different approach with these youngsters than we've already been taking. You know what I mean? Because we do have opportunity to overturn this stone, but if we don't take advantage of it, like Hewitt P say, see, or was that Bobby Seale? Which one was that? Seize the moment.
Bobby Seale.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So yeah. we really have to seize this moment, right? And we'll get into that because I know that's one of you all's questions too.
Hey, let me drop a little something here. Going back to one of the earlier questions when we talked about self-destructive behavior, and actually that word should have been markers for self-destructive behavior. And the reason why I asked that question, I kind of want to dive a little bit more into that, is because what should the average person look at something as being a self-destructive behavior? What kind of things, Brother Dark, do you think should be considered self-destructive behavior? And the reason why I asked that is because it's even going back to when you was talking about being in uniform and not recognizing at the time the fact that you can't be on both sides of the fence. Different people are looking at different behavior as being self-destructive at different points in their times. So oftentimes what attract people, I feel like what attract people to just wanting things to be better is what attract them to the party. That don't mean that they themselves are at a point to where they are ready within their cycle of life to be 100% in a positive image. Right. But what they see, they look around, they see self-destructive behavior, and they want to be on the other side of that fence. They don't want to be on the fence of self-destructive behavior. But at the same time, you're talking about now, and when I go into relationships, the ideal relationship, as I look at, is the interaction between two or more people. What I may view as a self-destructive behavior may not necessarily be what you view as a self-destructive behavior. True. So if I got 10 things that I think is a self-destructive behavior and you only got 3, we're going to connect on those 3 things that we both think are self-destructive behaviors, and we're going to try to ride with that. But at the same time, if we operate on different levels of recognizing community-based self-destructive behavior, then how do we create and work toward that, identifying with that element of a disconnect, which is kind of what we was really trying to get into in terms of the lack of leadership between the current generation that's making moves and the previous generation, because of those self-destructive behaviors of the newer people that are moving in position and not recognizing some of the wisdom of the older generations that it applies to. Hey, that move you're making is self-destructive. And the younger generation feeling like, well, they can do the same thing, but not have the same results. In other words, evading or feeling like history ain't necessarily a real marker. So when you talk about a marker of self-destructive behavior, how do we create an environment or come to some sense of recognizing as a people that these set of things are self-destructive, and they need to be recognized as self-destructive because they play into why we keep out and have ourselves reinvent the wheel or reinvent methodology, so that the next generation coming in is basically on a path of rediscovering what the party means, or on the path of rediscovering what it means to be revolutionary. So that definition in itself keeps changing and manipulating with each generation because they're learning through their own experiences instead of being able to pass that being passed on properly through the elders.
So in that question, basically what you're talking, that's a question posed more toward revolutionary organizations or communities. And how to recognize markers of self-destructive behaviors and learn from the elders who have already made their mistakes and then move past that. So from now on, what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that you don't write the questions. You're gonna tell us what you want to ask, and we're gonna write the questions for now.
Oh, so basically you getting that when I send an email, I say y'all look it over, let's talk about it, and it never happened. Gotcha.
Yeah, because I did not get that question from
at
that
all.
at all.
I fell asleep on that motherfucker. God damn.
I did not.
Was there a question? Shit.
All right. So now here's the thing, though. Here's something to think about. That's kind of like what the original brothers in the party were doing to the Dallas chapter when the Dallas chapter started, and they was against us with the guns, and they were saying that because in the 60s when they did the guns, they was retaliated against by the law enforcement community, and they were basically trying to tell us, no, we shouldn't do the armed protest, and we refused to listen to them. So what do you think about that? Do you think in that sense that they was right and we didn't have the foresight to see what they were trying to tell us? Or was they out of time? Was they out of date? What?
Well, let me explain, because you're absolutely right. And that's where the disconnect starts. But I'm gonna say this. To me, this goes back into some of the lessons I learned from Brother David Foreman. Is one thing to tell your child, hey, don't touch that stove because it's hot. And expecting your child to just simply listen to the command because you gave them the command, versus another element of being able to explain what fire is and why fire burns and what fire does to the body. And me having an actual visualization or an interpretation that I can run with that makes sense to me, or that I can bridge and have a reality of why you're telling me don't touch the stove. And I think part of the disconnect has to do with the difference between teaching the next generation versus just telling the next generation. It's like if you go back, and I say this to a lot of the membership I deal with now, if you go back in the history books, most of the times what you find in the books is a lot of dates, names, name of programs, a little bit about what the program was, but not the actual operating day-to-day operation, which is what gives you the meat to be able to get why these things are important. So it's like people are put focus on the end result of the journey, but not the actual journey itself. Because to me, it's that actual journey that creates that embrace, that builds that accountability that DarkCide was referencing earlier. How do you come to a point of recognizing accountability? Like what y'all was talking about being in the cell, when you reflecting back on your life, now you're seeing things in reverse. Now, because of where you are now, which would be incarcerated, you start thinking more about the journey that led to that incarceration. Whereas if you tell a kid, hey, don't do that because you're going to end up in jail, you only telling them what the end result is going to be. But a lot of times we don't think about the journey that leads to that end result. And so therefore, not having an explanation or not having the guidance that prepares you for the journey versus just simply talking about the end game, I think creates that disconnect that I'm talking about.
Hey, Brother War, I'm gonna take it a little bit further, because really, a lot of us have our mind made up. You know what I mean? We're already prepared to go to prison. We already know what's coming in the game. You dig what I'm saying? Like we'll say shit like I'm ready to die. You dig what I'm talking about? And then kill me tomorrow. Got me fucked up today though. You dig what I'm talking about? We use those type of things, right? So we do have the knowledge of what it is right on the other side of it. We do have that knowledge. I done been locked up behind bars and faced with prison times before that. You did what I'm saying? So I already knew it. At that time, I was tired. You did what I'm saying? I was really, like I tell my mama, well, not my mama, I knew this dope fiend named Danny, right? And I told Danny, man, you ever get out crack, boy, you'll be a rich man. You do too much, right? And people used to talk about, DarkCide, talk to him. I say, man, Danny not gonna stop smoking crack till Danny get through smoking crack. The same thing with T-Bone. You deal what I'm saying? And you know where I'm going, right? Until a person is tired of their situation, right? Exhausted. You can tell when a person is tired of the situation, they don't care what nobody think about them. They're going to come ask you for something, right? They'll ask you for the help. They don't care if they toe up, stink, none of that. They don't care right now. All they need is what they need. They will come ask you. They'll walk in that office. They'll come sit up in the church house with nothing, with no shoes on, just because they tired. You know what I mean? And once we get tired, see, we're not tired, it's fun, right? Even though we be fucking up our community, it be fun. They'd have made it to where it's fun while we do it. You deal what I mean? So of course we do it, right? But once we start saying that it ain't fun and we look back and we can see all the trash and the wreckage and all the other stuff that we left, man, all of a sudden it ain't fun no more. Now it's your son that just caught a murder case out here. You deal what I'm saying? It's Lil Junior, the same one that was walking around, that's been walking around since he was 3 that everybody know. He only made it to 16 and just caught a body. You deal what I'm saying? Or somebody that bodied him, right? And now all of a sudden people want to cry and they won't change. And until we collectively learn that my pain is your pain, what I do to you, I do to me. The old saying, when you kill somebody dead, when you dead set on revenge, dead 2 graves. You know, whenever we harm each other, we harm ourselves, right? The moment a man murder a man, he just killed his life on the streets, right? So I don't think there's a disconnect. Like I said, I think we're connected. I just think we're connected in the wrong way. They got our wires wired up wrong. You know what I mean? They got our mind and the way we think all fucked up. So we're connected. We're just connected in the wrong way. And as far as listening to the elders, you gotta be a cat that really, really grind. They gotta see, like, you know, we run a school and we run a school for wayward kids. And these are kids that's been kicked out of all the school districts around here. Some of them got cases, some of them fighting cases, whatever, right? And what I've come to learn, this is in the ghetto, even with outside the school, if you show somebody love enough, pretty soon they'll start calling you Unc. Hey, what's up, Unc? You get what I'm saying? So all they need, all our people need is somebody that they see gonna work hard every day, have their best interests at heart, and that's not gonna give up on them. One of them people that's not sitting here with that fake love, like my mama boyfriend. Yeah, he acting cool with her because he want my mama ass. You deal what I'm saying? And as soon as he ain't got my mama ass no more, it'll be another nigga up in here pandering to us. You deal what I'm saying? And the same people that say they love them, they so quick to give up on them. You deal what I'm talking about? So they used to people walking in and out their lives and giving up on them, telling them they ain't gonna be shit, this and that. That's what they used to, right? And they used to people playing. So when you come, when we're dealing with the youth, you have to show them that you real. They're gonna have their off days, they're gonna have their bad days. You don't cast them away for that. You deal what I'm saying? At our school, we allow them to cast themselves. You deal what I'm talking about? Because like I say, we don't deal with wasted energy. If you just really dead set on being out there in them streets, brother, go enjoy. Just like Brother Sykes say, when you come to the table, you ain't ready, then we'll catch you next week. And a lot of them students walk right back into our school. You deal what I'm saying? But we don't do suspensions, right? We don't do in-house suspensions. We deal with them and whatever they have going on with them right at that moment. We close that door. We're a private school. So we can have the conversations with them that DISD can't have with them. You deal what I'm saying? I can make him sit there and take a deep breath real quick, because guess what? Whatever you're mad at, it can't be anybody at this school that caused that problem. It has to be from somewhere else. Take a deep breath and let's figure this out. You deal what I'm saying? And we work together. So I believe that's my formula. You know what I mean? Show real love, show dedication, show motivation, show that it's working for you, right? And I think they'll come in. But a lot of us ain't really doing no work. We talking, right? We ain't really got the dedication and motivation. We want to ride on somebody else's back. You deal what I'm talking about? And that's how they lose people. That's how they lose their fans.
Hey, I want to take a crack at War's 3-paragraph question.
Three paragraph.
Yeah, if I can remember what the fuck it was he asked.
Something about old people.
And self-destructive.
Oh, so okay, so it all kind of goes together for me. So, Psych, you mentioned something earlier along the line. It was just a word within your explanation. You said something to the effect of anytime when doing something good in the community is a bad thing. It's viewed in the community as, this horrible thing. Get that away from me. I don't want to hear none of that.
Yeah.
I would disagree. Getting at War's point, after the 60s and all the movement and all of that was going on, the 70s came in. And if you remember the 70s was all about free love. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. Much more virulent strains of different things were introduced into our communities. And if we look at the 70s and judge them by today's standards, the 70s were really, really reserved. They were really, really tamped down, but they were moving the society into a particular direction. And having had that cutoff, that gulf, that let's call it what it is. Organizations, and even with the questions that were, you asked what are the markers, how do we decide the markers, blah, blah, blah. There's no elitism. There's no elitist position within our community. And all of these organizations period, operate from an elitist mindset. Even Huey himself said that the difference between us and other organizations is that we believe we have a better understanding of the problems that we are facing. That's elitism. We know better than y'all. Nation of Islam, elitist as fuck. All of it, whether it's the church, whether it's all based on, I know better. I know what to do. I know what's right. We didn't have a bridge to understand how to use that position. I'm not saying it's right or wrong to have an elitist mentality or to put yourself in an elitist position. It's what you do with it, like anything else. Is it good or bad to have a pistol? Depends on what you do with it, who you shooting. So having an elitist mentality or using an elitist approach, or what we call organizations. Again, organizations are just a way of codifying a certain elitism. We didn't have that training, that understanding, that positioning of how to use that mindset to put ourselves in a position of authority or and that authority being based on respect within the community. So it's not, at this point, for me, it's not that doing something in our communities is bad or looked down upon or frowned upon. It's the discipline that comes behind it. When you start trying to convince people, when I went to University of North Texas, the sisters at one point started getting real pissed at me because, I was all gung-ho about Africa and black stuff and da-da-da-da-da. I was running around telling all the sisters, you need to stop straightening your hair. That was my thing. I was telling them all, and they were getting pissed off because I had the good hair and I didn't know what it was like to have to deal with this hair and blah, 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 blah. So when we start trying to convince people, and you mentioned it earlier, he wants us to stop eating pork like it's a punishment, because this society, especially nowadays, remember, based on the 70s, do what you want to do. This is the 70s on steroids. This is the 70s exponentially. Everybody does what they want to do. And anybody tries to reel that back in for any reason, what you have to give is something that's taken away. We kind of mentioned it in the past, well, when you're a network administrator, you don't start out giving, somebody comes in and signs on for an account on your network. You're not going to give them all the rights and then start trying to take them away as you go. No, You give them 1 or 2 basic rights, and then as they progress in the company, you give them a few more and a few more and a few more. Where we live in a society where essentially you have the right to do whatever the fuck you want to do. You know, we have this concept, this idea that freedom of speech means you can say whatever the fuck you want without consequence. You can say whatever the fuck you want, that's freedom of speech. But there's always a consequence. There's always something behind it. There's always, you say, I love you, mama, there's a consequence behind that. If you say fuck you, then there's consequences behind it. But we're in the mind state of freedom means I can do whatever the fuck it is I want to do. That's what freedom is in this country, in this society, in this culture, period. Anybody comes along and says we shouldn't be doing that, get the fuck out of my face. You're trying to take something from me. That's not giving me anything. That's not giving me discipline. That's not giving me a better way. That's not giving me development. That's taking some away that I like. And again, it's your thing. Do what you want to do. So we didn't have that gap on how to caress the masses of the people, to talk to the masses of the people, to present ourselves to the masses of the people so that the masses of the people will respect us beyond seeing us walk down the street dressed in black and say, hey, black power, knowing good and well, it don't mean shit to them. It's a good show. All right. And that's it.
That's it.
Getting respect beyond that. Because we put on a good fucking show. We put on a good damn show. Especially Jasper, all the rest of that shit. We put on a good motherfucking show. Nobody can take that from us.
Right.
But behind that is what we didn't have. We didn't have anybody to train us on the 48 laws or any of the fucking laws. We were trying to figure this shit out on our own while still suffering everything within the community that we suffer. Every nigga from the street was still a nigga from the street trying to grow and be better. But that's a hell of a weight to be a nigga on the street and try to be better. That's some hellified movement, you know. And I say that as a watcher, because compared to all you motherfuckers, I had it nice and soft. I can't even lie. I feel like a bitch right about now because I'm the only one that ain't came close to losing everything. You know what I mean? But so yeah, from that vantage point, it's the Malcolm thing. Malcolm and even Huey and them, they grew up with a community, a real bona fide community where black folks still, to whatever degree, would look out for each other. There was still an identity. There was still some level of camaraderie within our community. Now we don't have that. We're a community of individuals.
Let me cut you on that, E. And I agree with you a lot. But to say that we don't have it, we do have it, right? And we might have it in small scales, but we do have it. And until we stop saying that we don't have it, it'll grow. Now, everything that you're saying, I agree with about telling them what to do, taking something away from them, being able to give something back, right? I understand about us putting on a great show back then because we really did. You hit that dead on the fucking head. You did what I'm talking about. But learning from those mistakes here in 2021, now that I know better, right? Me myself at my point have started filling those gaps that we didn't do. You did what I'm talking about. Thus our school. That's the reason why we deal with wayward students. At one time, our school only dealt with athletes. But once I talked to the lady that actually owns the school, Dr. Shavers, once I had a talk with her about our community, we changed up our curriculum, right? So now when we bring these students in, what do we have to offer them so they won't necessarily have to go to the streets? Okay. One, we're a dual credit school, meaning high school and college, because we do have a relationship with the community college, right? And every child that comes to our school is automatically has to enroll in college, right? Two, we teach entrepreneurship and marketing, right? On the other side of entrepreneurship and marketing, we also teach mass media communications, audio and visual, right? We have enough football players and basketball players, so instead of having a gym, we have a real live dojo. You did what I'm talking about, and we teach Northern Shaolin Kung Fu, and every child that goes to our school has to take that class the whole entire years that they're there. You did what I mean? We have a 100% graduation rate, right? Every child, we make them have they have self-accountability for each other. You deal what I'm talking about? It's your job to make sure that your brother that's in this class or your sister is in this class be able to pass this class. You all got to work together, because guess what? If you all don't work together, some of y'all gonna be sitting here with him or her after school or on one of your off days trying to figure this out, because it has to be done. White folks do it, Mexicans do it all the time. So we learn to help each other starting from the gate. You deal what I'm saying? If a student hasn't been to school in a couple of days, it's the students that call that student and find out what's going on with him. It's the students that come back, and we'll all figure out if it's transportation, we'll figure out a way to figure that out. One of the students can drop by and pick him up or pick her up on their way coming to school. Drop them off at home. If it's economics and they just don't have bus fare, we'll figure that out as the staff. We'll get them bus fare. You deal what I'm saying? We're a whole family, right? And we deal with every aspect of their lives as a family. You deal what I mean? Because a lot of them kids, the homeless rate in the Black community is very high. A lot of people, as far as juveniles go, and a lot of people don't understand that. And I was one of them homeless juveniles myself, right? So I was out there in the streets, and I know how it is being in them streets as a juvenile. You deal what I'm talking about, and you're dealing with grown individuals, right? And nighttime do bring the werewolves out. You deal what I mean? So at the end of the day, we're a family. We give them a lot of what they're lacking. We teach their family how to be a family. You deal what I'm saying? Because seeing through the love of us, because sometimes we got to close the door and talk to them parents. You deal what I mean? Because a lot of adults fucked up. And we also have a program for them too. If they don't have their education, we do have an adult high school education program as well. You deal what I'm saying? So my thing is, I think we just need to fill the gaps ourselves now. We know we all can Monday morning quarterback. And if there are still gaps or things going on that's not being bridged, that's our fault. And we're to blame for it. And we have to take the blame for it, because now we know better. All of us do. You deal what I'm saying? And there's no more times to put on great shows anymore. That's how you bridge the gap too as well, because people go by what you do, not what you say. You deal what I'm saying? And if you can show them that your way is working, like I ask every student that wants to give up, I ask them, give me 5 things that you can name better than what we're offering you. You deal what I'm saying? If you can give me 5 things better than what we're offering you, then turn your ass. If you can't, and you finna turn your ass around and go sit down in that classroom, man, don't get that teacher no more. If you don't want to talk about your problem, don't get a teacher no more problem. We're not your problem. Take it out in martial arts. You deal what I'm saying? Deal with Sifu Scott. Get your frustration out then. You get where I'm coming from? But that's my solution. You know what I mean? Fill in the gaps. We know what they are. We can keep on looking back at the 60s, the 70s, and now. Right now, we know where we done fucked up. We done been in this. We was in the 90s. You deal what I'm saying, doing this. We was in the early 2000s doing this. We know what the gaps are. We see the same mistakes that they're making now that we did. They're putting on good shows. You deal what I'm saying? There's no substance behind it. So I think to bridge the gap, we need to put substance behind it. And the more substance we show, the more people will start turning our way. But if we don't put on a better show than the rest of them, then why would they look our way?
Look like Brother War want to say something before I move to this next question.
I just want to just chime on the idea of some of the language you use, and that way the listening audience can recognize part of the, I would say, spiritual warfare that's going on. Number one, Brother DarkCide referred to dealing with the streets as entertaining the streets. And then also we talked about some of the operations that we did as putting on a show, entertainment show. What we're talking about is based upon the stimuli that the average person, that creates an attraction that the average person goes to. So what I think goes into one of the disparities I was asking about in terms of recognizing self-destructive behavior is that we have to be stimulated to do anything. And wherever we feel the most stimulation is where our mentality and our psychological premises develops its yearning and develop its attention span. So from that, think about how the entertainment industry and the idea of entertainment is what continues to put us in a cycle to where we don't have the discipline, going back to what E was kind of talking about, and what we've learned through the years is that discipline and stimulation seem to be at opposite ends of one another. Because with one, you feel like you're taken away. With the other one, you feel like you're able to cut loose and let loose, and like he said, just basically do what you want to do to that degree, which was like the vibe. So that standpoint is we have to recognize how weaponization has played a strong role in everything that people tend to want to be involved in is based upon them, the attraction of stimulation. So we have to be able to come up with ways to control what stimulates a person to want to be a better person, you know, and that stimulation has to not equate to some type of entertainment or to some type of language or speak pattern that emulates entertainment. And when our people change what they're attracted to, as we as a people, let me just say that as we as a people change what our attractions are, then I believe that stimulation can be something more along the lines of what it takes to have a liberated and revolutionary community intact. And so I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because we're using words of attraction through stimulation. And these stimulations are hitting people at the level that even lazy people are attracted to, because most people look at entertainment as a coping mechanism, a way of escape. You know, this is why the idea of street drugs or drugs in general work so well on the human body, because they create that stimuli. And so you weaponize a stimulation and you attract people through their stimulation. And if we form our work around that level of operation, then I think that's what we keep falling victims to that type of weapon. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm gonna add on to the conversation, DarkCide and Brother E, when they were talking about community. You know, one of the things I also think that we fail to realize then that I think is extremely important for a revolutionary, because a revolutionary is basically a social scientist. Revolutionary is more than putting on a black uniform and carrying a gun through the streets. A revolutionary has to be a social scientist, because you have to understand people. You know, the reason why we chose Brother Ali as the first Dallas chapter community liaison officer, because he was naturally a social scientist as far as understanding the nature of people and how to relate to people. But I say that to say this: the human being is gregarious. We form communities without realizing that we're doing it. It just depends on what kind of information that we feed into those communities. When I was growing up, I grew up in a community. We call it the hood, the block, my hood. That's what we call it. And in my hood, there are certain people, elders, whose names I heard before I even stepped off the porch. I knew these names of these people. And these people was basically like gods. You know, they were talked about so much. And, you know, in the hood, when people tell the stories of these guys, because, you know, you don't see these guys. These guys, one, for instance, I can give you a perfect example. He went to prison when I was 6. I didn't meet him for the first time until I was like 16. He did 10 years. So I was 6, and this guy was already a legend in the neighborhood. And, you know, they tell stories about him knocking out police officers with one punch. You know, at Monday morning quarterback, and look back at it, I'm grown now, probably never happened. You know, he probably swung on the law and caught out run, whatever. And, you know, they beat him up and they turned him into this historical figure. You know, incidentally, and I'm going to get back to the point. Incidentally, that's where the legends of Gilgamesh, stories of Haru and all that stuff usually come from, though. usually some real world figure that they deified after he died that actually formed the community. But back to the point. So the first time this brother, for instance, came home, he was a legend. And he could have brought us any laws or any kind of standard, and we would have been, us youngsters would have been ready to follow. You know, we admired his brother. And he brought us something, but he didn't bring us nothing of real substance. He showed us how to drink a 40 ounce without creating suds in the bottle, showed us how to crank out 100 push-ups in one shot, you know, things like that. Added to the fighting game, things like that. But the brother, he could have came with the 10-point platform, we would have been ready to learn it. He could have came with the supreme mathematics, boy, we would have been on it, because he had that type of pull. And this is not just my neighborhood. This is how communities happen all over the world, because it's human nature to fall in line with this. It just depends on what we have to bring to them. You know, Huey, well, Fred Hampton said it, but he said it about Huey. In a speech Fred Hampton gave, he called it the genius of Huey P. Newton. In this speech, he said essentially, and I'm gonna paraphrase it, he said, the genius of Huey P. Newton is that he understood how people learn. He said, Huey used to always say that people learn through observation and participation. He said that the people learn through a third way too, through reading, but for the most part, the Black community is not a reading community. So we can't go into the streets and take our platform to the people and say, here, read this. They're not gonna want to read it. So in order to get them to read your material, you first must get them activity to observe and eventually participate in. And if they respect your activity, then they'll want to read your material. He said, that's how you educate the people. You educate them by giving them the proper activity to observe and then eventually participate in. And the example he used, he said, for instance, we believe that the children should eat breakfast for free. So we done started a free breakfast for children program, and we feeding the kids. He said, and if we feed the kids, even though we're not passing out paperwork teaching why we need to feed the kids, people in the community is learning about feeding the kids. So when the pig run up on the average brother in the streets, and he run up on him and he pull his baton out and he say, nigga, are you a socialist? And the brother say, no, sir, don't know what it is. He say, nigga, you a communist? No, sir, I can't even spell it. He say, nigga, do you believe in that Black Panther Party free breakfast program? He say, yes, sir, I die for it. The pig said, well, that's a socialist program. And the brother said, well, sir, I don't care if it's a Marshal program. If you put your hands on that program, I'll blow your brains out. He said, Fred Hampton said, what's been happening? He said, the brother's been getting educated, not through paperwork or read material, but through observation and participation. So, and that's how the people learn. And that's how we always learn from the neighborhood, to get the correct activity to observe and eventually participate in. In the 60s, Hugh and Bobby and them first got attention. We talked about putting on the show through the police and the police programs and march through the neighborhood with guns. But since, and Bobby said this when Bobby talked about the genius of Huey P. Newton. He said that when they first went out into the neighborhood with the guns, he said Huey told him that when they see us moving through the streets in the guns, the news is going to say, look at those thugs moving through the street with those guns. And then he said the average dude in the street, while the mainstream community is going to pull away from us, the average brother in the street is going to pull closer, because they've been calling him a thug forever. So he's not afraid of thugs. But he's going to say, man, those some out of sight thugs, because they walking around through the community with their guns on display while we hide now. So let's check those thugs out. And that was their promotion. They gave the people correct activity to observe and to participate in their time and in their setting, you know. And it takes the correct activity to observe and participate in our time and in our setting. And that's why I can applaud the school situation, because one of the things that I learned that I truly believe in, I believe that proper education always corrects errors. I believe that. And I believe that our problems start with miseducation, and the solution to our problems are going to begin with the proper re-education. I truly believe that. I truly believe that you start putting the right information in brothers' minds, and you can't force feed them to them. Brother Watt said this years ago, you got to trick people into their liberation, as crazy as that sounds. But you actually trick people. You have to be a master manipulator to trick people to saving themselves. You have to do it. And I'm going to use this as an example, then I'm going to go back to the question. One in prison, a brother I was building with, this brother was the speaker for the Bloods on the unit. Now he wasn't just a Blood, He wasn't just a guy in the group. He was a speaker, and to understand what that is, in prison, in Texas prisons, they don't call them leaders. You know, there is no Don who sits on the top of the throne and just randomly calls shots. It doesn't work like that. They call him a speaker. He's a representative. He's an ambassador. His position is to represent the needs and desires of the entire blood community to other groups, Crips, Gangster Disciples, the Mexican groups, Tungo Blast, and all that stuff. That's his position. So he was the speaker for the Bloods on the unit. And I started building with the brother. Now, I knew that there is no way you could be a revolutionary and be a fully active Blood. I knew this. But I had learned from trial and error and making a mistake before that I can't tell him that you can't be a revolutionary and a Blood, brother. You can't do it because they're going to resist. They're going to put the walls up. So I just simply gave him the information. And I simply built with him. And I told him that he can be a Blood and that his responsibility was to bring the Bloods back to being what the Bloods were meant to be. That's what I told him. I told him that the first Bloods, those brothers got the red in the concept of blood from the African flag, which the red in the African flag that was organized by Marcus Garvey stood for the blood of the people. And that's who they're supposed to be. You know, that's what I explained to the brother. And I told him it's his job as a conscious Blood to take that back into the blood. And he tried that. And he was met with resistance. And then he himself woke up to see that. He came to me one day, he said, you know what, Brother Sight? He said, to be serious and true about being a revolutionary, I don't think I can keep being a Blood. That's what he told me. And I said, no, brother, yeah, you can. He said, hell no, he argued me down. I'm talking about we had a debate. He told me there is no way in the state that the Blood organization is in now that he can continue on in the group from the position from the understanding that he has conscious, because the majority of the group does not move on that conscious level. And he basically laid down his flag and he stepped away, not just as being a member of the group, but being one of the most respected Bloods on the unit and the speaker for the Bloods on the entire unit. He stepped away. Why did he step away? Did somebody beat him up? Hell no, dudes were scared to stand in front of this guy. He stepped away because he had been educated. He had been getting the right information. And as I said, proper education always corrects errors. So it's always about how we present this stuff, how we present the information, and how we ourselves conduct ourselves. Like Dark said, and it's true, and it's one of the mistakes that he made. It's one of the mistakes that I made. You have to make a decision that you can no longer straddle the fence. Asada said it. You know, when you see in her book, Autobiography of Asada Shakur, one of my top 10, one of my favorite books, she said that when she went to visit California to go visit the original Panther headquarters, that she was out there and she was out at the port, her and her so-called revolutionary brothers and sisters, and they was out there full of weed and they was smoked out. She said they were so smoked out that when the police came running down on the port, they couldn't even barely move. And she said that the Chinese revolutionaries had to get them and usher them to safety. And she said she felt extremely embarrassed, you know, that they considered themselves to be revolutionaries, part of the group that inspired these Chinese revolutionaries. And she was out there, couldn't even protect herself because she was so out of her mind because she was high. And she said from that position, she realized then that she has to always be a revolutionary. That at all times she represented with revolutionary standards, and that she got to move on that level. Even when she got caught and shot and arrested on the New Jersey Turnpike, she even said then that was a mistake because you got to always be aware. She knew that the police always stop cars and look for people to stop, but it was the fastest way to get to where she was going. She said a revolutionary could never run in the dark. You could never get caught up and want to move so fast that you forget about taking those safety precautions. You got to always be moving and operating as a revolutionary in and out of uniform. And, you know, those are the things. The community is there. It's there. It's always been there. The enemy of the community has just put the wrong lessons and the wrong type of poison there. The responsibility of the revolutionary becomes to bring the right lessons back to the community in a way that the people are prepared to hear them. You know, that's the killer. That's the killer. Because, you know, you can have the exact right information. You can have the answers to the people's problems. But if you are not addressing those, bringing those answers to them in a way that they understand and in a way that they can relate to, they're falling on deaf ears. You're wasting your time. So that's the key that the revolutionary has to figure out. Now I'm gonna skip some of War's questions because War can get long-winded, but I'm gonna ask this DarkCide somewhere, probably rolling up the best blunt in the world right now. What does self-determination mean to you, and how is this expressed on a personal level?
Self-determination for me is I don't ask nobody for nothing. That's what self-determination is for me. I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna find a way. There is a way, right? There's no such thing that there is not a way. There is a way. Now, how do I practice this in real life? I'm a self-made man, right? The building that I call my office, I knocked the trees down to that mug. I leveled that mug off. I built that joker. Now I'm in that joker. I operate out of it, right? We wanted us a shopping center. So we cleared out a bunch of land, laid us some sidewalks, renovated us some buildings, and then we got a shopping center. You deal what I'm talking about? Now I want a farmer's market. Okay, I done hooked up with some black farmers in East Texas, right? I started out with watermelons last week. Here in a minute, I'm gonna have a whole farmer's market. And just so y'all know, y'all want a good laugh, I've been short-stopping the shit out of Walmart. You know what I'm talking about? I be in their fruit and vegetable section and I be telling folks, hey man, check this out, man. You want to come to a black farmer's market? She's like, where I want at? I say, it's over there right off Simpson Stewart and 310. They come over there, they buy my watermelons. They don't buy Walmart's, right? I'm circulating the black dollar too. That's something else I'm working on as well, right? But self-determination and self-motivation is desires. Whatever your desire is, it'll truly show, regardless if you do or don't, right? If you're hungry and you're real hungry, you'll get up and go to the refrigerator, right? That's your desire. You're hungry. You're going to go get something to eat. But if you're really not that hungry and you're tired and you're sitting there watching TV, then your desire is to sit here and watch TV and relax. You deal what I'm saying? So we do what it is that we want to do. And we got to get from this concept of begging white folks to change their system. I don't see it happening, right? Like I just don't see it happening. So I started my own system. You deal what I'm talking about? And I do believe in Marcus Garvey words that some Negroes wouldn't be good here. Some Negroes is not good here in America, and they wouldn't be good for Africa neither. You deal what I'm saying? So I don't deal with them people. I deal with the same ones who have the same motivation, the same desires that I do, and that'll work just as hard as me. I ask nobody for nothing. Nobody. Watch this. In all our buildings, we create our own products, right? We have hair, skin, natural hair products, skin products, pain products, whatever you can deal with that deals with natural health. We make our own products, right? So we just build our own world. And that's what I take from doing for self, man, is doing for self really. I'm not asking no white man for nothing. And here's another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on too. When we deal with economics, the reason I deal with economics is I want to be able to do for my community. Everybody else already leeches off our pain, right? Everybody. So my thing is I want to bring something back to the community. So how do I bring something back to the community without having to be a 501c3? Because I don't want the money from the government. You deal what I'm saying? If I say we're being self-sufficient, how can I say we're being self-sufficient when I'm asking them for the money? You deal what I'm talking about? So they're really funding our our program. And at that time, they're going to start trying to put requirements on how we're supposed to do things and how we're supposed to operate within our program. I don't want that, right? We're self-sufficient. I want us to have the money to be able to do the things we do. The ultimate program that I'm working on right now is a program called Down, because I want to take us and gentrify our own community. We get the economics together. We got so many things around there that can be renovated and redone. We just don't take the time out to do it. The Mexicans do. They buy these rundown houses. Next thing you know, there will be little mansions in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? So that being said, I want to take young cats in the neighborhood, take journeymen like myself who know how to sheet rock, do roofs, do concrete, lawn and garden, roofing, electrical, plumbing, whatever it is. We supply the materials, right? We go find these old folks in the neighborhood that the city been messing with them about their properties and trying to hit them with fines and all this shit. And we rebuild theirs, and we rebuild it by using these young cats, right? That's how they learn. You deal what I mean? And what that does is, one, that's helping us gentrify our own community. And it goes deeper than just houses. It's apartment complexes, grouping our monies together to be able to buy apartment complexes, buy these shopping centers and all this other stuff around here. But we want us to be the ones that rebuild it, right? Now, if we the ones that rebuild it, not only does that give these kids a trade, right, other than learning about mass media and woo to woo, but it also instills a pride back in them, because no one wants you to tear up nothing I just cleaned up. You deal what I'm saying? If we done renovated 20, 30 houses over here, I bet you these young niggas be damn if a motherfucker come over here with that shooting this shit. I bet you not finna sell dope over here. No, bro, we clean this up. You deal what I'm talking about? And then it also allows us to keep our community, because through gentrification, we're losing it. You deal what I'm saying? So that's my aim and goal. I don't know what somebody else can do for the community. That's my aim and goal for the community, is to be self-sufficient, to earn enough money economically, or build with enough people economically to where we can really rebuild our community. You deal what I'm saying? Like, rebuild it ourselves by our hands. We don't need nobody's assistance, none of that. We need to start rebuilding. And until we start rebuilding, and everybody else, until that point comes, there won't be any pride in our community. We won't take it, because we'll take it for granted. Everything is given to us. You deal what I'm saying? Somebody will come fix our streets. Somebody else will come buy the houses on the block, renovate them, and then overcharge us for them. You know what I mean? Somebody else will come buy the apartments and redo them. Somebody else will redo the little shop center down there. You know what I'm saying? But it's up to us to rebuild. And that's my ultimate goal, is to find some way to economically be able to do it myself, to be able to buy the materials, and we can get the labor out of the neighborhood. But I want to be able to provide the materials and start there. And then that also starts entrepreneurship, because now you have contractors that you just created. So instead of us doing everybody for free, now we do the elderly, right? But if their daughter wants some roofing done, they can pay these kids to do it. You deal what I'm saying? Now they have money in their pockets. You know what I'm saying? They need some plumbing to be done. They can pay these kids to do it. You know what I'm saying? If they need an ongoing lawn service, they can pay these kids to do it. You know what I mean? So, like I say, man, my thing is, I just want to rebuild the community. That's my thing, and that's what I feel like we need to do for ourselves. That's my definition.
All right, I can't knock that at all. You know, you talked about the watermelons. You always make me go to a prison story with this stuff. But when I was in prison, I used to tell the brothers, all the brothers that build with us, I told them all they had to get 2 trades, you know, because they offer the trades in there. And I told y'all the story about the brother that came home and taught us how to drink the 40 ounce without creating suds in the bottle. So I used to tell them that story. And I used to tell them, y'all could be the brothers that go home, because, you know, they had horticulture where I was at. They had horticulture, they had construction, carpentry, they had a few of them. But I said, y'all could be the ones that go home and teach them how to grow watermelon. You know, teach them how to grow watermelon. Then once y'all start growing your own watermelon, then y'all can start being them brothers. I know you just seen them brothers on the corner with the truck with all the watermelons in the back. You can teach them how to go on and make their own money. They can create their own way of creating and producing their own finances by growing their own watermelons, by growing their own tomatoes, their own cantaloupe, and things like this. Are the ones that took construction carpentry, like you just said. You could be the one that fixed the roof. But yeah, to me, that is self-determination. That is taking control. Now, what would a healthy individual, family, and Black community look like in America to you in your perspective? What would a healthy individual, a healthy person, a healthy family, and a healthy Black community look like in America to you?
Man, when we learn that we are not all the same and we can actually work as a team, you know what I mean? That defines community for me. Teamwork, when we're all working together. You know what I mean? That's me. So I don't have a big rant about, well, maybe I do. Okay. We have 101 acres on the other side of Corsa County, right? Our plans is to sell plots of acres of land so we can build a community, right? We already have a school. It's not hard to start our own credit union. The town is unincorporated, so it only has one stoplight. We own 101 acres of it, right? So we're going to own all the retail because we're going to build that up. The shopping centers, all the stuff that needs to be around there, we're going to build that on our property, right? So I guess a functioning Black community for me is a community where we're all thriving, because see, even on some of that land, some of those people can build apartment complexes. They can build the things that they need, you know what I mean, to add on to what we don't have in the community, because the land plots we're selling is big enough for that. We're doing 3 acres and 5 acre plots, right? You can do a lot with 3 acres and 5 acres. You deal what I mean? So at that point, like I say, it's where we're running self-sufficient. Everything in that town we own. That's everything in that community we own. All the money that's made in that community is circulated in that community until it can't be circulated into that community, until you have to go outside to pay for something. You know what I mean? That's my dream state.
All right. This is a crucial question right here. What do you see as the role of the Black Panther Party now and those who carry the Black Panther legacy in this mission?
Oh man, that's a good one. I'm gonna tell you they role. Follow the motherfucking platform. Do the goddamn work. That's their role. Do the work.
Is that the same answer for those who follow the Black Panther legacy now?
Hey, do the motherfucking work. Listen, man. We done a lot of tongue wrestling, right? Like Warden them say, Brother E say showmanship. We done did a lot of showmanship. This show now. You deal what I'm saying? Fuck the words, fuck the good speeches. Let's show. We know better. Do the work. You deal what I'm talking about? Or move the fuck out the way. You deal what I'm saying? Just go ahead and ride by the side. Do not put on the uniform. Do the work. Simple as that. Do the work. You see what the fuck is wrong. You don't have to say, well, let me figure out. Start some fucking world. Anywhere on that platform. You ain't got to go 1 through 2. Anywhere. Just do the work. If you're not going to do the work, don't call yourself a panther. That's all I can say. You deal what I mean? Because getting in that uniform nowadays and knowing the same lessons that we've already learned, and you get in there and you do the same shit just to say that I'm doing Panther work again, hell no. Do the work. Do the work. I don't need a Panther uniform to do the work. Do the work. You deal what I'm saying? At the end of the day, do the work. That's all I can keep on saying. I'm going to say it again. Do the work.
Now, what do you define as the work? For those in the back? those in the back of the class who might not be getting it.
All right, what I define as doing the work is starting somewhere. If you, okay, check this out. I was sitting in a car one day. I was at a funeral. Female say, look at them hells right there. Holly, whoa. I say, man, all that you just said sitting here in this car, how did that help them? I mean, at the end of the day, right? If you really got a problem with a certain person being a certain way in your community, start a program that deals with that, right? You might want to start with yourself. You deal what I'm saying? You might want to take a real good look in the motherfucking mirror and start there, right? And then reach out. You deal what I'm saying? But to me, doing the work is coming up with a plan, having a plan of action, and working it. Not out there freestyling, right? Not out there on a mission, not really knowing what you're doing and you just headed nowhere fast, right? Have a plan of action, right? And go for that. Stay to that. You deal what I'm saying? Stay that course. Once you have that course to where it's going and there's other folks to help you keep this on this path, then you can move to another section. But we have to grab a hold of something on that platform and do the work. You deal what I'm saying? We can't talk about it. We done talked about it enough. We can't debate about what's going on. We done debated about it enough, right? We can't ponder about this and that. We done pondered enough. Do the work. Quit thinking. Quit hesitating. Get out there and do the work and continue to do it. You know what I mean? I tell you, I can't emphasize that enough. Do the work.
All right. I got one more for you. One more. Do you have any final words of encouragement and power for transformation?
Man, all I can tell you is
do the work.
Do the work, and man, this world will change when it changes. You deal what I'm saying? But if we don't never do what it takes to change it, right, then it'll never change. So all I can say is, man, be that change. It starts with you. Be that change. If you're not it, then who is? You know what I mean? That's all I can say.
Anybody else have anything before we sign off?
No, sir.
All right, brother. We appreciate you. I think if they don't got nothing else, they got do the work. Start somewhere on that platform. I got one question. I got one question. I will go ask you three. I ain't gonna ask you three. I'm gonna ask these other dudes too. So each one of y'all give me one. Brother Dark said, do the work. If you had to name one thing, starting with DarkCide, then the brother E, then the brother War. If you had to name one major act that Black organizations, that so-called activists, so-called revolutionaries should start working on, actual work, not marching, not putting on show, actual putting in the work, what would you say that thing would be? What would somebody start at?
All right, I jump on that first. I would just say, when I'm looking at building the next generation of the Panther legacy, is basically being able to bring in youth that are not reinventing the wheel. Bring in something to where the youth have a foundation that they can operate from, which goes back to the lessons that we've learned and learned the hard way over the years, and be able to make that be a starting foundation from which that generation of Panthers can operate from. So to me, it's about being able to, what I was trying to get us to kind of address earlier, is deal with the levels of disconnect from the previous generations to the current generations, and provide those examples instead of just simply say, don't do that, but actually provide those examples, provide the substances, provide the know-how to make it happen. And so when I think about doing the work, it's about that.
We grew up in the hood like most black folks. Little did they know it comes gorillas from the South Coast, breaking them boots out, living and working in many pieces. Black rain for not 5, explosion posse going to to pay my wages of sin, cause black men live by the gun. Stuck in the trap, masterminded by the enemy. Satan versus Geo,